Today we have with us, I have TSG and of course Caveman, and hopefully others are going to join us as well. So we'll see how we go. But I'm very excited to have these guys here. So we're going to theory craft some decks, but more importantly, we're going to teach you how to build the decks yourself. We're going to teach you what we're looking for, how we're going about building these decks. So it's going to be very beginner friendly, very intermediate friendly. And if you just want to know what's going on, this video is also for you. How's it going, guys?
Hey, Scrox. Doing well. TSG, what's up? Doing well.
I can't hear you, TSG.
You're muted, TSG. Oh, he can't
you guys.
Oh my God, he got me. He got me. I'm like, this dude is like got the energy, but he's not making any noise.
That is acting.
Oh,
All right. So here we go. Let's jump into it. Firstly, we have the 3 pre-made decks. I believe these are going to be the same for absolutely everyone. And these have 25, 20, and 24 cards in them, which I think is quite interesting. But let's go. Should we have a look at them first, or should we create a team?
I think so. I think it'd be cool to see what they think is good.
All right. So Affinity Scions. I love Scions personally, so we're going to take a look at that one. This is really interesting. It's got 3 Grokkos in it, a stage 1, 2, and 3, all of different affinities, which is insane. There's so many different affinities in this deck. There's so much color. It's actually burning my eye sockets a little bit. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. Here we go.
Yeah, and if you click on the affinities tab, they actually have it almost like 4-4-4-4-3. It's a very like balanced deck that you're going to be able to use like 3 of each kind of synergy. Very interesting.
Take a look. So where's the affinities tab again? Here, view synergies. Okay. It's really interesting. You didn't miss in the 3 nature. You could have swapped out that like one of the air or earth for that. Yeah, the Bulwark, Rogue, Scion, Empath. It's a really interesting deck. TSG, can you tell us like how this would actually play in game?
What is this team? I actually don't even know. Go back to synergies.
It's got like a lot of the different basic synergies.
Oh, cool.
It's very spammy. It's very drop lots of alluvials on the board.
Yeah. So I think this is it's going to be very much not an affinity, not so much an affinity heavy focus and more a class focus. I mean, you can play it all, and then you can. So let's say you want to go Scions, and then you want to activate, for example, your opponent has fire. So you can get like 3 Scions and then double down on the water to get that hyper encounter. So hyper is going to be extremely. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about hyper in survival, but I'm telling you guys now, hyper is probably one of the most important components to consider or factors to consider when building a team for PvP. It's legitimately one of the most important things.
How do you feel that hyper is in PvP compared to survival right now? Is it more impactful?
Way more. It's way more. Like you should be building your team with that in mind. Like top tier players are absolutely going to be building that with that in mind. Like I know the good guys internally, Vincent, Martini. That was some of the, even like Jetski and Zazu. Like that's one of the biggest things that they've told me. It's like. And I'm just going to share the information. So if you shouldn't be making a team that's all fire. Like maybe that works. Kieran does that, but I think if you're playing against someone who's like actually like top tier, it's just not going to work. It makes way more sense to go like have a team where it's fire and air, for example, where they're 2 complete opposites. So you can actually counter anything that your opponent plays at you, and you're not kind of stuck to one strategy.
Wow, that's very interesting. Squares, I don't know if I could share for a moment.
That's your screen, isn't it?
Yeah, if I could, I don't know if it's pulling up now. Yeah, so I'd like to go through this a little bit. So just my initial glance, and we are just looking at this first glance. We've literally just got launched, so really these are just initial insights. But the way I'm looking at it, I like to take a look at the weapons first. And I think that the Ranger, and correct me if I'm wrong, is still one of the most impactful units. Is that right, TSG? I'm guessing it's going to be the Ranger, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Ranger is by far one of the most important characters. Just again, it's versatility.
Yeah.
And what I'd recommend is to have like I wouldn't even say recommend, but it might be a good idea to have a couple of weapons, for example. So again, you have different synergies that you are able to activate depending on your opponent.
And so with that, I'm looking at this water cuff, which is the Scion weapon for the Ranger, and I'm guessing this is what it's going to be built around. Is doing a water build. So you have a nice several different water units, and then you have a bulwark front line. That's what I'm assuming. And if the passive from the water still works like it does in PB2 right now, that water will then just apply to the Grackos. They'll cast their defensive stun, and that's pretty much how this deck would work. And then I haven't looked at the augments, but maybe that's a key. This will be more for shielding.
Oh, so yeah, one of the big differences with augments as well is, and I'm glad we can finally really talk about it in the open. You guys can really see it for what it is. Previously with augments in survival mode, essentially you would put it on a unit, and it would allow you to buff two. It would allow you to buff two separate attributes. So what you can give it some health, some defense, energy resist. You have these things that you can adjust to it, and it's somewhat overwhelming. You're not always sure what you want to do. So with augments right now is if you want to bring up any screen, Skyrox, do you want to bring up your screen?
Yeah. I'll show you.
Yeah. So if you click on the eye at the top of the augment, you can see right there. It just says gain 450 shield or 45 energy. So you can tell that this is somewhat more defensive, and it just has one of two effects. That when you put it down, you can just choose one of two. And I think that's way easier to kind of onboard people into the game. It makes so much more sense. And by looking at an image, you can tell already whether it's going to be an offensive, defensive, or more of a utility-based augment.
Well, and that augment in specific, I could see it being a good Scion too. Gain 45 energy, you put that on your Flish, have it cast a little bit of it faster. Could be really beneficial there.
Good old Flish.
No, absolutely.
And one thing you'll see on this deck, this is a very low cost deck. So
this is all T0s. This is a free deck.
Yeah. And what I imagine these kind of decks will be good for is actually like an aggro deck. That they're incredibly cheap. You're going to be able to push out a lot of units at the beginning and create a whole bunch of synergies. So you should have an actual pretty strong start with these, but it really depends on the balancing and how the game works or what they've changed. But in the current build, if you had a lot of these T0s, that would be a very strong start. Hey, Blicketer.
Oh yeah, but they're really good at filling that empty role in your deck. Personally, the Volantes are freaking insane. They're like the best unit in the entire game, if you ask me. The silence and the disarm and everything is just so incredibly helpful. If your opponent plays around them, they can get nullified pretty quickly. But if your opponent doesn't, they do some serious work. I've kitted them out with augments before as well, and just had them like one-shot Adoriuses. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, they're very, very powerful against units like Adorius for sure.
All right, I think it is time for us to build our own team. Now, in fitting with the channel and the branding, we're going to have to make a Magma team first. What I'm thinking is I'll make a Magma team, then we can go through, Caveman can make a team, and TSG's already made a bunch, so I don't know what he's going to do, but we'll see how we go. So let's kick it off. The first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to filter for what I'm after. So this looks like it's just Mastery and Tier. If I had to... How do I sort by the different synergies?
You go into alluvials. Right now,
okay. So once I'm in the alluvial section, the little filter button will work for me. Sweet. All right. If I do fire and earth, which is somewhere, right at the top, fire and earth, it's gonna give me a whole host of things.
Yeah, fire and earth is gonna give you fire and earth. If you want magma, you need to click on magma.
How do I do that? Oh, that is here. Whoops.
It just says magma.
All right. There we go. I'm getting used to it. Okay. Magma. We've got Seer and Scoriox, so I'll add them into the deck. So, Seer, which one do you think I should be going for, Caveman? Like, how do I think about this this part of the process is what I'm afraid of. This is very, very overwhelming.
Yeah. So what you're trying to find out is what a primary. And so if you don't know, the ranger can bond with an alluvial, and then they gain one of the traits or both the element or affinity or in the class of that alluvial. And so in this case, there's 4 seers because they have fire or earth for the affinity, and you have fighter or bulwark for the class. So you have to decide really what is the bonding you're wanting out of your ranger, and it might be good to have a couple options. Maybe you need this seer to be an offensive front end tank, or you need him to be a full damage monster. It really comes down to that, and then you can have ranger weapons that will work with him in both scenarios. So, is how I'm thinking it might work out.
There's actually 2 more parts to this. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Taryn. The primary affinity. So the hyper is going to be based off both affinities, right?
No, hyper is going to be based on
the dominant, off the dominant.
Yeah, dominant.
So hyper is based off the dominant, and then hyper on the class they gain is also based off the dominant. So if it's a dominant fighter, the hyper bonus is going to be fighter. Now, I think it's very clear to me that you want to be playing your seer as bulky as you possibly can. So I really much rather the hyper to be go on the bulwark. And which hyper is going to be most advantageous on the affinity? I don't expect to see too many water decks, so I think fire might be the play there.
You'll be surprised.
I think there's a lot of water.
But so this is, dude, 100%. And so something to consider here is, and I think who does this really, really well? I think it might be Nick. I think Nick is doing this really well, where he's playing a water team with he's playing a nature team with toxic. And so obviously if I want to go hyper against nature, I'm going to use fire. But the issue is he uses dominant water for his toxic. So actually he goes hyper in that situation. So like that's how you want to be looking at these composites, in my opinion. So you kind of see what your primary affinity is going to be, and then you add the composite that counters or might throw a spanner in the works if possible.
And maybe we should explain what hyper is a little bit to the audience because we have some new people joining on that. And what hyper is you're going to have the elements. And just like in the rock, paper, scissors or like Pokemon, certain affinities will be stronger against certain types. Like earth is really good against fire. And then what happens is over time, if they're in the same vicinity as a alluvial that has that, the counter augment or the counter affinity, they will gain an increased attack speed, maybe an increased mega power, and that depends on what class it is. Bulwarks will get tankier, attack speed will be increased for fighter units, and different things like that. So, I'm gonna let Skorax go back to what he was working on there.
No, that's all good. No, I think that's really important. So in this case, it's still hard for me to decide if I want to go for earth or I want to go for fire, but I think the bulk of my team is going to be fire, so diversifying that will be important. But on the other hand, earth is a very typical tank, and I don't want to be a typical tank because their typical anti-tank is going to be anti-earth for the most part. So I think I will stick with fire and just make sure fire isn't my primary across the board. So I'll go fire bulwark in this case, and then we add seer as our first alluvial. So if I hit a little back button there.
That's crazy.
Skyrox is coming in now. So as for the dominant class, I definitely want to stick with fighter on this one. I think the attack speed, I think it gets bonus attack speed on hyper. So that's definitely way more valuable. And then it's definitely going to want to be fire or maybe earth. What sort of rogues are going to be going on top of Scoriox that it's going to need to counter off? You've got your big rogues Ramfire, so earth would beat Ramfire. And then you also have, what's another big rogue? Maybe Umbre. Which is probably going to also be beaten by earth and at least not beaten by fire. So I think definitely an earth fighter Scoriox is where I'm going to want to look for that. And my brain's already dead. That was a lot of effort to get those 2 alluvials in. But we digress. All right. Let's start going on the classes. I want to get some bulwarks set up in my deck to help defend myself. I really like Goliath, but my mastery is already really on the expensive side, so I'm gonna want to start going a lot cheaper. And I think I can filter my mastery here. I definitely want something in the 50 range. I honestly think Atlas would actually play pretty well into this deck. That being said, I'm not loving water. I've never really thought water pairs that well with Scoriox, to be honest. But I'm trying to think of what does pair well with Scoriox. I think air would probably be okay. Nature, not too bad. I think Earth, definitely building up its grit and resolve. Earth is, honestly, if you ask me, Earth is the best synergy in the entire game out of all synergies and classes, whatever. Earth is just OP. So we're definitely going to chuck in Scarabok. When I get that Earth Bulwark, we'll keep looking for more Bulwarks, I think. So we'll toggle them on. I think Flare might be okay, just in case I can't play Seer yet. I think Flare is going to be a good addition.
Yo, something that I would say to keep your mind thinking about. You start with 100 mastery points on round 1 and 2. So try and think, how can you maximize your opening, and how can you maximize that second round as well? Like those are two, because that's going to be, if you ramp that up properly, that allows you to really build this out. Like, and I think that's something that even I need to be considering more of. But how are you going to use those 100 mastery points? Because putting a Seer, that's it. That's all you can do. You can't activate synergies. You can't activate anything. Is that going to be the smart thing to do? Even looking at something like Flare at 45. Okay, Flare and what? You have 55 mastery points left. What are you going to do? Like that's kind of how you want to be thinking about it.
Oh, for sure.
My opinion.
I'm really liking how this scales up, whereas I feel like Scarabok and Lesser Earth Grocko are a great team to open up, and I'll probably pair that with some really great weapons and things like that. And then Flare, Lesser Earth Grocko, and Fury are also a really good combo. So these four, I feel, always pair really well as a team. And then transitioning later into Scoriox, but then now I need the secondary play for the deck. So this primary play is Magma, which is extremely weak to maybe like Tsunami or something like that. So maybe some really decent nature-based setups will be helpful here. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. This is where I'm starting to get pretty lost. There's a lot to consider here. And there'll be more videos coming out in the future, but let's stick with this for now.
It is overwhelming. It is overwhelming.
I do think in nature, I think some nature-based tanks is really good here. I used Blotto recently and actually really enjoyed it. So I'm going to throw in Blotto.
I'm so excited to start seeing what people's decks are, man. And like seeing, for example, you can see how you, on the right, it says Illuvium 6 and then 3, 4, 5 mastery points. I think that's going to be really interesting to see what some of the top players do, what kind of numbers they're looking at, and how that's split between the higher cost and lower cost. And okay, man, you've been quiet. But what do you think about all this?
Oh no, I'm just trying to make a deck myself, and there is a lot to consider. So I'm just over here making one. I'm letting the Scoriox be the first blood, just trying to do this on the fly. I'm having the same difficulty. There are so many filters, and so we have to learn how to use these filters, which are really nice. The UI feels great. We're able to really sort through because there's so much. Like weapons alone, I think, what is it, 450 right now I'm looking at? Trying to figure out the perfect weapons for your ranger. You got 252 alluvials. So yeah, I'm just here being quiet, grinding. I'm making this nice invoker shock build right now. I'll show it to you guys once I get it finished. I'll let Scoriox keep finishing on his.
Yeah, I mean, do you want me to? Let me see if I can show you one of mine.
We can share both at once. I think I wouldn't mind it.
People aren't going to be able to see it fully, but all right, let me show you one of mine, as I've already made a couple, and these aren't great, so bear with me. I'm gonna maximize. Oh, is that mine?
Do that.
What, maximize
should be yours. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
What do you double click it?
I mean, on the left Scariox, it says maximize.
Ah, okay.
But yeah, so I'll show you Thunder Strikes. So this is what I've got, and we were building it when we had 25. But so this is what I have. So I went with a verdant tank. So Nile and Archelion on the front line, with a couple of tanks here in terms of Flare, Emberlinks, and that's it. So 1, 2, 3, 4 tanks. I mean, Archelion somewhat of a tank. Cux as a utility to hold the front line off to survive that little bit extra if needed, and Mjol as the front line. And so you can see I've got the air option here, as well as the fire option, and the verdant option. So verdant for the tank, that's just an obvious kind of healing situation on the front line. And then depending on my opponent, like I said, having the 2 opposites that I can play with fire. I knew I wanted to go with shock. So I could either choose, and shock being what it is, you can either choose to go fire or air. I decided to build both of them and then have the end result as the shock. And I've got all three lines of the shock here, because I can just make my ranger link up with any of them to activate them. And they don't stack shock, but they all get the bonus from shock, which is really, really important to remember. And then, yeah, some scions to get those synergies that I wanted in terms of the affinity, and then the scions, as you can see, 1, 2, 3. And then if I add something on myself, that's the 4th scion before I turn that into an invoker. That's kind of how I planned this out. Yeah,
the flishes are interesting. Do you want to talk about them besides their obvious affinity and getting the synergies? Why flish?
Flip, man, the DPS or not DPS, sorry. They're just the actual damage is just nuts. Like the burst damage is just nuts. One flish doesn't seem to be enough. But if you get 2 flishes, they do relatively well. And you can see here, Skyrox, this is what I mean before about thinking about what round 1 looks like. So you can see that I've got a Nile or all of these things, but something like this, I usually start with this team with the opener of 2 flishes. So 35, that's 70. And then I just throw one of the 30 scions on. So I don't activate an affinity immediately, but I activate the scion. That usually is enough to win me that first round. And then I can choose based on what they've played if I want to keep building out the fire side or the air side. That's kind of how this team goes. And you can kind of see where the logic comes from there. But yeah. I'm keen to hear you guys critique. Again, it's not the best team in the world, but happy to hear the critiques on this one.
I think it's interesting that you have all 3 of the squids. Is there no other shock? There's no other shock Illuvials, right?
No,
not right now.
No, shock. To activate shock, you need to commit to it with your ranger.
And the squids are all invoker, so they're always scion.
Only Ophisto is an invoker.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But like, they always pair with a gauntlet to give you shock, basically.
They always pair with a gauntlet to give you shock. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah,
or with anything to give you shock. Yeah. Earth is a hidden OP. I think Earth is one of the worst, to be honest.
Grit and resolve is ridiculous. Yeah. It's like flat damage reduction. It's so dumb.
In PvP2, it's incredibly strong right now, but I could imagine it could always change.
In PvP, I dead set have not seen. Like, I've seen it used once or twice.
Oh, really? Wow.
Like, compared to everything else that you can choose, like Toxic, Magma, Verdant, like, there's so much you can play. Oh my
gosh.
Just fire alone, water alone.
In some of these augments, I'm sorting through the augments. They're crazy. Like, there's so many new ones, and there's some augments that give team buffs. So,
share your screen. You take the lead on this one.
All right, so I'm going to go in. Obviously, Scorax just went over his shock build. So here's mine that I've been working on a little bit. Yeah. Oh, shoot. I don't know. Am I sharing the right screen? I think I'm sharing.
We're about to find out.
Sharing Twitter.
Yeah, we don't want Twitter. Here we go. Is it share? Let's see if we can share this one now. All right, so here we are. I got my team 1 right here, and I'm just trying to finish off the augments. But here, I'll save, and we'll just look at what I have currently. And so we if I can sort by, so I've got the Ophisto. I've also got a Duelith in here too.
That's a lot of gauntlets, Jesus.
And yeah, I got a lot of gauntlets. So I'll go through my thought process.
That's
Yeah,
a bit too much.
Who knows if this is a good idea or not. But if we look at it, actually, we'll pop up synergies. So we've got 6 air, we got 5 fire, and 5 water. And this is a counter to a water deck, but also really good for invokers. What I'm trying to do, I got 10 scion in here. This thing should be explosive if my 4 bulwarks can hold the line.
Aren't 6 of those scion your weapons?
Potentially, I'm not sure how that works there. But
one at a time. It's not 10 scion.
What and
Yeah.
how many? Can I see how many augments do you have?
Right now, I only have 3 augments, so I'm trying to add a couple more there.
Okay.
I need another 4.
I'm telling. Okay, so this is another 4. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys now. You need at least 10 to 12. I'd say 10.
Yeah, I was gonna do 10 alluvials.
You need
and
at least.
then
Yeah,
like,
I was gonna say you
20
definitely.
augments.
This is something that I've had issues with as well. You need to scale up late game. So with 3 augments, you're going to get absolutely destroyed. So you have way too many weapons.
Well, I still have 4. I still have four cards left. So
Yeah.
I think,
And that still leaves you at 7 augments.
yeah.
And suits,
I mean,
suits, you should probably go, I'd say max 2. This is just my opinion, and I'm keen to see how the top tier players actually feel when they start playing. But I think 2 suits, one for an early game and one for a late game scaling, makes sense. And then you kind of want, with this number now at 28, I think maybe 4 options for weapons, and then just max the rest out with augments is my bet.
Yeah. Well, I'll kind of go through what my thought process is. So the whole goal is to be, it's a late game deck. We've got a Fisto and Duelith, so they're invokers. So the goal is to try and get them ramped up as much as we can. My Ranger will also be an invoker, so we could pop off 3 invoker. And then right now, our front line is looking small, though. So we got a Hydrolinx, a Sephirolinx, Water Groko, and an Air Groko. And so as we start scaling this, we have a bunch of scions. We have a little bit of air. So we have 1 flexibility if we need to go air or water. We can do either of those. It's just 2 frontline units there. And otherwise, we have a bunch of smaller, cheaper scion units just to get the 3 scion buff. And then a goal would be 2 invokers, 3 scion, and then 3 bulwark. And then that would be a nice decent combo there. And then on the armor, specifically, these ones are kind of interesting. I tried to have some 40 cost and a 20 cost so that we have a little bit of variety there for early and late game. But these arcane sashes are crazy. It can give you like Omega power. It gives you energy regen and just a base energy. So you're going to have that immediate cast right off the back. That'll be really interesting to see how quickly you can start getting those invokers ramped up. And then looking at the augments, like some of these are wild too. Like this one gives 20 Omega power. Now that I'm thinking about it, we don't need that because our invokers are already scaling. And if you don't know, invokers, every time they cast, they grant all invokers additional Omega power or ultimate power. And so that was kind of interesting. Then you have this nice team one, which gives 8 energy to all of your units. So then our invokers will be casting a lot faster. And then we need some more augments for defensive. So I'm really thinking that the whole goal is to have 2 major augments for your Fisto or your Duelith. And then all the rest of the augments should be on defensive so that you can just buy your carry some time. That's what I'm thinking. So that is my initial deck. I'm thinking that we should have competitions. You have 10 minutes to make a deck. Here are the affinities and stuff you have to work with and see if people can crank it out in like 5 minutes or something. Be wild.
Well, when you get used to it, we do crank it out. Like I think me and the team are cranking them out in about 10 minutes now. Like we kind of know the direction that we want to go to. Yeah.
I think the hard part about this is without testing the decks, it's very hard to know if you've built anything that's useful. It's almost like impossible to actually know if you've built something good or bad. Most likely bad until we play our first game in general. We're not really going to understand the flow of PvP well enough.
Great question, Nipe. Indomitable means that it survives, so it can last on 1 HP for however many seconds. So if you have something with 6 seconds Indomitable, it means you can't use an Omega. It doesn't do anything except for attack. It's just its base attack surviving for the last couple of seconds that it has.
Scoriax, I just found the perfect augment for your Scoriax right here. The Exalted Fusion Igniter. Check this thing out. Gain energy attack damage equal to 40% of your energy cost. So your Scorax is all about auto attacks, so you can give it extra energy damage, and that's equal to 40% of its energy cost. So that's just that's a solid one to give some extra bonus damage there.
I'm trying to finish off my deck. You guys built those way faster than I expected.
I mean, you were trying to talk through yours. I'm being quiet over here, like trying to figure out everything. But shoot. Am I still streaming? Do you want to take back over, Scorax, or I guess we can.
You guys can have a look what I'm doing if you want, but I'm kind of lost.
All right, I'll let you take over.
I'm kind of lost. I mean, we can try and assist you. What's
I'm pretty happy with my Illuvium so far.
The stream better not be like, yo, watch me build the best deck. Okay, yeah, cool. I was gonna say, because that's definitely not the dream.
I might get one more Earth, but I think I'm just gonna grab that from the Ranger. Oh no, I just did that. But I've got 2 fire, so I need to up that one more. But I'm pretty happy with my Alluvial so far, focusing a lot on Magma. Probably not going to finish off Wildfire or Verdant. But I might be able to finish them off with the weapons. That's kind of where my head's at, is to finish off Wildfire and Verdant with the weapons, or get 3 Magma. And I think the shield is good, but I don't want an expensive weapon. I'm very keen on only having 2 things that are over like 70 cost, right? And then everything else is going to be super cheap. And I go hard into augments. That's very much the strategy I think is going to work in PvP. And that's what I'm going to employ. I've got a lot of bulwarks now, but I don't have any of the other synergies, which is going to be a serious problem. So I'll figure that out at some point. Add some other scions or something. I don't know, maybe a flesh. But we'll see. I'm just trying to figure out the weapons. I got myself an earth shield. A fire shield might be good as well. I might actually go for a tier 3 though.
Can I also make a suggestion to your deck? Yeah, so we want to get your Scorax. Your Scorax is your main carry, right? So he needs some attack speed. I would suggest trying to find a way to get another Arcanite or at least fighter class so that he can get some attack speed in there. Might be beneficial as well.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely want 3 fighters. I actually added the Doka already.
Nice.
Just need I do need some other fighters, but I'm having trouble trying to figure out how to go about it. There's a lot to take in this. Mal has some questions for you, TSG.
One second. What is the most OP damage wise? They're completely different. So I can't say there's not one size fits all. For example, you could get the Vermilion, which is a rogue, or you could get a Slashin, which is a rogue. So or Slapping, sorry, or Dash, right? So they're all going to be different, or even the Volantes. So it's just impossible to say. I mean, as a general rule, Scions are going to do more damage, but variables.
I mean, Zaleth, you've got good old Rampfire, who's a mix of a rogue and a Scion, baby. He's got both. But real quick, Mal also asked a question. There's a positioning cost, and then what is the selling of an alluvial, and does that clear and reset augments?
Yeah, so it does clear and reset augments. The cost for it currently is, and all of this is massively subject to change, but to move is going to cost you about 15% of the cost of the unit. And to sell is going to cost 25%. Again, subject to change. But so if you put down something that's 100 mastery points, like a Titanor, and sell it, you're going to get back 75. If you move it, it's going to cost 15 to move.
And with that, does the augment also get a deduction, or does that get full refund?
That is a good question, and I don't have the answer to that one.
Oh, okay.
I'm almost certain that you do get a deduction on it. I'm not going to die on that hill. That's definitely something to throw in the arena chat, and probably Ben or someone who's much better is going to be able to answer that.
Sweet.
I think the big fire gauntlet actually works really well here as my other big big cost play because the big fire gauntlet can pair with Scoriox to double up Magma and Arcanite, and it can also pair with pretty much any other any of my fighter Earth, so the Exalted Earth Joker as well, and it does okay with the links where I would get the fire synergy and Arcanite, which I think is going to be quite an interesting play overall. So I really like that. I'm happy with my weapons now. I've got the 2 shields and the gauntlet, the big gauntlet. Now we have a look at suits because there's a lot to consider with suits. We can have a look at stats this way. So let's have a look.
Real quick. Can you go back to what like the look of it? Like don't change it from stats.
Oh, you're gonna point out the 3 archetypes, right?
Yeah, the 3 archetypes.
Nice. Yeah,
go
you need to remind me on that.
Top. Yeah. So so obviously this is not going to be what all of these look like. A lot of the artwork is going to be massively overhauled. But what we're doing right now to help with that is giving you some visual aid for the archetypes. So you can see the blue wings. That's going to be something to do with energy. So if you click on any of them, Scoriox, and click the eye on top.
All right, so these are all blue wings.
Yes, correct.
Yep.
So if you click on that, this says Omega Power. So energy / Omega Power is what I believe it's going to be. Yep. So if you click on any other one, just to confirm I'm correct.
Yeah, it should be. 24 resistance, 56 Omega Power.
Yeah. Now, if I could step in, actually, if you press X real quick, I think we're actually looking at the name. So that's an Arcane Cuirass. If you go to Arcade Plating, that one then is the defensive one.
The energy.
Of the energy.
I mean, it's still got a Mega Power.
It's still a Mega Power, but it's more defensive. It's got the resistance and the energy regen.
Yeah. So anything with that blue kind of thing is going to be either Omega Power or energy regen, as you can see. So
if you scroll, like it's really balanced.
Yeah. So if you scroll down, then the butterfly wings, those butterfly wings that you're seeing there, if I'm not mistaken, that's going to be more offensive. So it's going to be attack speed, crit chance, crit amp, things like that. And I mean, you can click on a couple more of those to confirm that what I'm saying is correct.
So the visuals seem really weird. All the arcane ones were blue thingo, and then Biotic was the red ones. Mm-hmm. And then Biotic is also the blue wings?
I mean, you can click on them and see what happens.
It doesn't have any energy or Omega Power. So
I might be completely wrong, or there might be something that needs to be changed. But for the most part, it seems to be. There might
just be a bug. I would rely on the names. The names look correct. So the cybernetic plating looks like it's going to be heavily defensive. Yep.
Yeah.
I would be basing it off the names. This actually looks sort of like what I'm after. I really want something that's heavily resistant because I suspect I'll be using the shields most of the time.
And Zaleth asked a question. Wait, what? I can select a seer from 4 different ones? Yeah. So they'll have the dominant synergy for each, the affinity and class. So it could be a fire seer, or it could be a earth seer, and then it could be and then you look at the classes, it could be a bulwark seer, or it could be a fighter seer. And then those are important for bonding with your ranger, because if your ranger is a scion and you bond it with a fighter seer, you're going to get an arcanite composite affinity with the awesome. Yeah. So I hope that was helpful.
This seems really good. I like the void.
Yeah, I actually added the void too, and then that could be really good for your.
I'm definitely going for the void sash. You kidding me? All right, I need augments.
Get them.
Let's do it. Here we go.
Lots of room for augments too.
What filters do I have? And I got crap. All right. Maybe there's an easy way to visualize this. Okay, so gain 4 physical attack or 2 crit chance.
Oh, that's not. I did not see that filter. That's really helpful.
I don't really need crit chance and stuff. Enemy team gains 20% less healing, or enemy team gains 10% less energy. I kind of like that. I want some that is going to boost tankiness on my tanks a little bit. See, this one's quite interesting. Gain 450 shield or gain 45 energy, because I can use that on either a Scion or a tank, which is what my team's a mix of. I think that's quite fascinating.
Yeah. In chat, while he's cranking at this, if you guys give me a carry unit, say a unit you want to be super strong, I'll try and make a deck out of it and see what we could build around it, whatever level or tier stage.
See, I like this allies in a medium area gain 40 grit, or allies in a medium area gain 40 resolve. It's too bad I can't add 2 of them. I thought I would be able to. No. I'm definitely going to add these 2. I might even add all 3.
Yeah, you can add. You can't add the exact same one, but you can add multiple of the same line.
So this is the one you're referring for. I think I'm going to grab the small one and the big one for Fury and for Scoriox.
Nice.
What the hell is True Sight? Does anyone know what True Sight is?
True Sight.
You don't miss.
Oh. That seems useful.
Yeah, it could be, especially if you're going against an air comp. Especially my air comp.
I don't think
12% shred me.
I don't think 12% attack speed is that big, but I definitely want to grant air sight, True Sight, just in case I'm going up against Caveman's air comp. It like seems like something that's gonna like hard counter my deck. You know what I mean? So it's good to add that in. It's your tech card. That's cool though. That changes PvP a lot when you really think about it. Is things like that existing? I would have liked to see augments that grant things like magma, but I know that's legendary augments can do that, but I would have liked some control over it.
I'm actually kind of happy it's only legendary, because then you just have some really, really crazy things to build. It'd be really hard to gauge a deck or read what their strategy is going to be.
I'd just like for it to be less RNG, that's all.
Oh, Prodigy. Make a deck out of Hero. I will make one.
Let's do it. I'm almost done.
If augments allowed you to have magma and stuff like that, that would just be insane. So very, very glad that isn't the case.
See, these attack speed, I don't feel like these are giving enough to attack speed.
Well, I mean, we don't know what that feels like, because they might have, if they increased his attack damage or his energy damage, and then even a 12% increase could be substantial. Or maybe his attack speed's been buffed also, and then 12% of a high attack speed's already a significant gain.
Oh, I didn't notice this, but you can see on this lesser nano sequencer at the top, it says every 4 seconds. And you can see at the top here, it says on deal crit. That's pretty interesting.
Oh, okay. So you get a guaranteed crit every 4 seconds?
No, it just says that on this one, it says on deal crit, and that's when it does this effect.
Oh, okay. Okay, nice. Oh, yeah, and you have on battle start. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I just noticed that. That's a big help, because I was getting a bit confused. I'm like, only reducing their grit and resolve by 4? That doesn't seem very helpful. I like this where it's going to build up physical and energy resist over time. I don't think I need the big one, but I definitely I see more value in giving every unit 2 augments rather than having a handful of big augments. There's a lot more diversity in the boost you can give them. This one's interesting. Your team gains 100 max health or gain 400 max health.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
My deck isn't spammy enough to make good use of it, I don't think, but it's quite interesting.
I'm keen to see what the community is.
This I see really good. The parasitic links. I might actually grab 2 of them. I've got 2 slots left. 45 pure attack damage. I did not notice that. That's incredibly OP. I'm grabbing one of them.
I don't know if you already skipped over it, but there's one that gives you invulnerability for 4 seconds. That could be good for your Seer frontline, just making him unkillable.
That could be really good for Rampfire as well, just to make sure that he does get that ult off, right?
For 4 seconds? I don't know if anyone would even be attacking him in those first 4 seconds.
I mean, it's PvP, so people can react. It's not just
Very, very true. Yeah. If you throw like a rye plant in the back, yeah, that could happen.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a very different game.
This is quite interesting where you can reduce the opponent's energy resist. 48% on this one. That's pretty big, but I don't think I'm quite tanky enough to go for the reduction stuff. I'd rather last it out. And I've got a little bit of healing in my deck. Not enough. I probably need more, to be honest. Here are the invulnerable ones. We'll gain 20 thorns. Oh, I like that. I think the middle invulnerability one, just for the thorns. Earth. This one's really interesting. On Omega, cleanse and become immune for 3 seconds, or gain 30% damage reduction for 5 seconds. But that doesn't really work because cleanse is only helpful if you're able to Omega. But you need the cleanse to stop them from canceling your Omega. So it's a bit weird. But maybe if your unit has a really long cast, like your Sea Forest, so they can't cancel you mid cast, because as soon as you start casting, this should make you immune to CC, which I think is quite fascinating. I don't know what else it's really good on, but I'm sure there's something. Maybe on Seer, actually, unironically. But I'm pretty happy with this. I'm going to stick with this deck. I would destroy TSG with this deck. I don't care what he says.
Yeah, very, very unlikely.
What's wrong with it?
I'm not even looking, to be honest. Let me see. Let me assess this. Let me full screen this. Okay, so you have 28, 11 augments. Yeah, I mean, it's not. So how would you start? What would be your starting round?
I don't know.
Your opener.
Probably Doka Scarabok.
So just the two?
Yeah, or I would go Lesser Grotto, Scarabok, and then I might be able to fit the Earth Shield.
So
no, I'm 10 too much, but I can adjust that.
I mean, so you get Earth and 2. And you get 3 bulwark, 3 Earth, 3 bulwark. Yeah, I mean, you'd survive. I don't know if you'd win that round, but yeah, solid. And then you build on top of that. Fair. One of the things that I can see that goes wrong with your team is you have too much tankiness, not enough heals, and not enough damage. Because what you have right now is just pure tankiness, but that can easily be brought down.
Yeah, like if I get out healed, I'm in a lot of trouble. I might need to add a Volante into the deck to stop enemy healing. Or add like an Adorius or something crazy.
So what are the synergies that you can actually activate? So you have Magma.
I've got Magma. Arcanite's the other big one.
You can also activate Arcanite?
Yeah. With Ranger. Ranger's got a few ways to activate it. And then there's a big Bulwark and big Earth and decent nature synergies and good fighters too.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting.
TC's like, I'd shit on you. I'd take you down.
But it's also not fair. I have been practicing. Like, I've been playing for a minute.
All right. I think that's me for now. My brain's pretty fried. But Caveman, how's your gyro deck going?
Oh, it's going. So here, I'll share. Let's go. I don't have any augments yet, but we'll just go over the alluvials first. So if let's save it. Let's go right there. All right, so the deck currently, we're looking at a nice 9 air, 5 earth, 5 fighter, 5 rogue, 3 bulwark. Obviously, that's not all going to go that way, but I've got a couple units that I wouldn't place on the board at the same time, like a Rhoda or a Gyro. Now, the goal with this deck, so if we're making Gyro the carry, that means this is an early deck. He's only a tier 1. So he's a cheap unit. He's probably going to be good early to mid game, and he's going to fall off. So that means we have to win the first like 4 to 5 rounds by a landslide. We're trying to kill them early as fast as we can. So your whole deck should be really cheap, so that you can get a lot of units on the board and activate a lot of those synergies. And so we want to make sure that we're activating his 2 synergies, which is it's Slayer, but you want to have Rogue and Fighters so that he can get those passive upgrades. So he's attacking quickly and he's getting a lot of crit chance. You do still need some Bulwarks to draw aggro. So we've got a nice Zephyrlings, which is probably our most expensive unit at 65. And then you got 2 other Bulwarks. You can activate 3 Bulwark. You're going to have the Fighters so that you can make sure that... I only have 2 fighters, so I might add another fighter in there, so I have at least 3 fighter, and then we'll be good to go there. And then your ranger, you're going to have either a sword or a dagger, so you can activate Slayer. And then once that gyro starts killing units, it's going to activate that attack speed, and it's just going to start ramping up. And we have a couple other air units, so they'll be dodging, giving our bulwarks some dodge chance, and that is the overall gyro build. I don't know. We'd have to see if it'd be decent.
I like it. I didn't know Gyro got attack speed off kills.
Slayer.
Have you got a way to activate Slayer?
Yeah, I've got the Ranger sword and the dagger, so I could either bond that with whatever his primary is, which I gave him Rogue. So with the sword, and that's because I like the sword more than the daggers, although who knows how the balancing is. Maybe the daggers are just filthier, like one-shotting people with the execute. But the sword with him, then you have the Ranger in the back. She's going to be slicing and dicing. As she gets kills, she's ramping up, and then she's just like a sword master slaying people in the back. So
let me have a look at this. This actually looks like a solid team.
Yeah, I think you would crush me.
Okay, so you have so what would your opener be on something like this?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of different options. It depends on what the enemy is, if they're, because we've got earth and air, so we have a potential to lose against nature builds, nature and water. So we need to make sure
not
that
really,
we're...
man. Earth beats nature, and
Earth
air
beats
beats
nature.
water.
Air beats water. Yeah, exactly. So, but we have to make sure that we have the correct one position. Correct. Because if nature is against my air, I could lose to hyper, or if water is against my earth. Yeah. So I personally would try. I mean, we got 100 mastery points, so I haven't done the math exactly, but I think we can get a Majol, a lesser Doka, and a greater Doka. I might have to swap one of those out so we can stay under 100. But then we activate that 3 fighter. And if we make sure the Majol or Mule,
that was hurting me.
Yeah, Mule. If he's kind of the main target, I'm sure he would survive. Both of them would survive, and we do 100 mastery point damage to the enemy. TSG, can you confirm? Are we having 1,000 health, 800 health? What are we looking like for?
Subject to change based on the feedback, but currently we're at 1,000. Currently we're at 1,000 health.
Okay, sweet. So yeah, it's only 100 damage for that first round, but hopefully you're able to keep scaling up next wave.
So the way it works is if you have one unit. So for example, let's say you have the Rhoda that survives. I'm just using a simple number. But let's say you have Rhoda that survives, that it's going to be 30 damage plus 40 base damage. So they take...
Oh, there's a base damage. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
What? And if I'm not mistaken, that scales up. I might be wrong. But there is base damage, yes. Let me just have a look now.
Because I was actually kind of a little fearful for early aggro decks, but that sounds like there might have a little bit more of a chance.
Okay,
I was planning on never playing anything turn 1.
I mean, I can find out that information, but just not right now.
Awesome.
But yeah. So an aggro deck can make sense. Like I know Ben seems to favor them a lot in terms of the fighters and berserkers. He just goes super hard real quick. So yeah absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, I have a video that I was going to be trying to drop where I just used the team builder from Illuvium Master, and I was trying to even calculate like if we had 120 MP each round, and there was 1,000 health on the drone, it'd still take like 4 to 5 rounds to be successful, and you have to win every round with everyone living. So it's a very you have to really be able to position, and no moving, no selling, because then you lose your total mastery point cap of how much damage you could do. So it's going to be the people who know how to do the aggro decks. They're going to position those units right from the beginning. They're not going to move, and they have a whole kind of like a tech tree kind of setup. Like they know exactly what's next in their plan, regardless of what the enemy puts down potentially. At least that's how I'm seeing an aggro deck play out.
For sure. I think that's a good point. I think the thing I didn't calc very well was like that first round and that second round and exactly what should go in my deck, because I'm like just short of getting 3 alluvials on the board. And I would argue 3 alluvials or 2 alluvials and a ranger with a weapon is way better than 2 good alluvials. Even like 3 low cost alluvials is overall quite good. Just because you got like base DPS, right? Like it's very diminishing returns. Like your fiery might do 50 damage and your Scoriox might be like 90, but 2 fireys would be 100, right? So it would be more than 90. And I think it's very much like that, where quantity rules the day at the very start, and then quality works out later because of the composite synergies. Don't forget to sign up for Illuvium Inferno, guys.
Oh yeah.
I should pin that on my Twitter.
Oh, it's gonna be a battle. I'm very curious to see who takes the top. There's gonna be a lot of good players out there.
You're lucky I'm not participating.
I know. I would be scared. I probably would actually resign from the tournament.
I know. I get that a lot.
All right. Do we have another deck we want to build?
I'm exhausted, man. I might have to jump off.
You want to call it? Yeah, let's call it, man. Yeah, I know it's super late for you. So
if TSG wants to keep going, you guys can keep streaming on my channel. I'm gonna go to sleep.
I'm good. We've been going for an hour. I'm happy to take a deeper look on my own and then try and compile my thoughts. So I really appreciate you having me on.
He's coming back. Hold on. We were thinking of wrapping up, TSG, man.
Yeah, sorry, man. I wasn't actually very attentive. I was juggling like a bunch of things on the back end. But yeah, cool. Good. Yeah, glad. Yeah, I mean, before we wrap it up, what are your first impressions? I know you've seen it before prior because I've kind of shown you, but now you've got your hands on it. First impressions, what do you guys think?
It's quite overwhelming. I really like the augments. I'm excited to see them in the game. That was one thing I was particularly waiting for. Is I know all the omegas of all the different alluvials, but I haven't seen any of the new augments. So now I can look at them all. And there's some really fascinating ones. There's great ways to bolster weaknesses, and there's great ways to improve strengths of any individual alluvial, which is important to me. I like my favorite thing about Pokemon is you can make any single Pokemon work. You can build a team around it and make it work, even if it's kind of crappy. And I feel like augments help us achieve that with Illuvium as well, which excites me.
Before we actually let it go, if you guys, and before we get your thoughts as well, Caveman, Scarix, do you want to bring up the blog? There's a couple of legendary augments that are revealed over there. So I mean,
give me 1 second.
Yeah. It might be something just to look at.
And while Scorex is finding that, I'll just give my thoughts too. I think that the UI is really set up so that we can sort through. There's a lot of filters because there is a lot of units and cards to go through, teams to build, and I think that's awesome. I mean, that's what we wanted from Illuvium. So it's a little bit much at first, but I think that after we play a couple weeks, it's going to be pretty easy to sort through. So I think it looks great. I think that I'm really excited to get in here and start playing around. Definitely going to make my 5 decks and be ready to test them out during launch.
Teams, but yes.
Teams.
And I'm pretty sure that there's actually a sharing feature as well. I just need to have a look. And by the way, Tolki, keen to play with you when that comes out. Jimbo, don't sign up. Yeah, sign up for the PvP tournament. Did you guys bring that up?
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. And Lowello, I'm really excited to see you see what you think about the game when it comes out, man. When PvP comes out.
Okay, so here are the legendary augments. I don't know if you're able to read them. Like if you're watching this on mobile or something, you might not be able to read them. So I'm going to talk them through. Lights chosen on combat start. Holder's 2 nearest allies gain 25% attack speed and 30 omega power.
That's good for your Scoriox. Damn.
Absolutely. Yeah, it seems pretty powerful compared to the typical ones. They're all cost. Oh no, some of them cost 50 and some 40.
Some less than that as well.
Yeah. The second one is triggered survivability, Omega. Utility. After Holder is vanquished, its 2 nearest allies become immune and invulnerable for 4 seconds and gain 100 energy. That's
What?
wild.
So you want like a sacrificial lamb at the front of your pack? They just die, and then your next 2 units just go off.
Chuck like a stage 1 flesh at the front. All right. Next, we've got CC utility on combat start, and every 12 seconds, drop a meteor on the nearest enemy, which deals 300 energy damage and stuns for 2 seconds. Every
Ooh.
12 seconds.
Yeah.
Feels like a little bit too long, but it still seems pretty cool.
I mean, I think maybe TSG can give us a little insights there. How long are the rounds, and do they scale up also? Or fights? How long can fights? Oh, it looks like TSG froze. Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah. He's completely gone. I thought it was the same, like 45 seconds or whatever, but I could be wrong.
Okay. So yeah, we get 3 to 4 casts from that. It could be good if you have the time. I think the stun is the most important part there. Oh, it looks like TSG is back.
Yeah.
How long?
Did you hear the question before, TSG?
No, I didn't. What was the question?
How long are the battle timers? Like 45 seconds, a minute?
It scales like per round. It scales up. So you have a bit more time as the game gets a little bit longer.
Oh, sorry. How long is the actual combat itself, or is that unlimited?
A minute. A minute.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's a minute. It should be about a minute. Yeah.
So you get maybe 4 meteors. The stun is the big part, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If you put this on, say, a rogue, and you're getting that extra stun on their backline healers, I think that's pretty cool.
That could be really good. Yeah.
So next you've got resistance drain, DPS utility. Holders attacks reduce the target's physical and energy resistances by 4. It sounds like that stacks infinitely. Can you tell me if it does, TSG?
Sorry. One more time.
The resistance drain one, where your attacks reduce their physical energy resist, stacks infinitely.
Wait, holders attack reduce target's physical. I would imagine so.
Yeah. It seems like you're just
drain. So you're consistently draining them.
So do the legendary augments play into the regular augments? Can you have 2 max augments on an alluvial? Doesn't matter which type it is.
2 so you can have 1 legendary and 1 regular, 2 legendaries, 2 regulars. It's just 2 augments on an alluvial, whether that be legendary or regular.
Yep. Sweet. All right. And next we've got sharp start, pierce 80% of physical and energy resist. That is insane. Wow. That's the little stuff Scoriox needs.
And it's only 40 cost too, so it's cheaper.
Oh yeah, that's bonkers. And the next one we've got is anti-dodge DPS. Holder as true sight. 30% increased attack damage and 20% increased attack speed. So
wow.
Legendary, I think, describes these quite well, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty insane. That is very, very insane. All right, so we better start wrapping it up. I've got to get to sleep. I've got work in the morning still. So have a good one, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I hope you learned something about the team builder and how you should consider constructing your teams. We all have different opinions on how we're approaching this, and I think that's the best part about this entire experiment. And I'm looking forward to playing PvP. Let's put it that way.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me again, Scrax.
No problem. Thanks so much for coming on the channel, Caveman. We haven't had Caveman on the channel before, but we definitely want to have him on more often in the future. And yeah, it's been awesome. His link for Polemos is also in the description, so don't forget to go subscribe if you're watching this now, if you're watching this later. But yeah, it's been fun. Have a good one, guys.
See you guys.